Hello again. Today, I'd like to share with you a modernized version of some of the most ancient elevator tech that there is. But before diving into it, I'd like to show a demonstration. Please enjoy. This is where I would usually give the list of inspirations for this video. But honestly, this project was just the result of messing around with one of my favorite redstone mechanisms. So instead, I'll link a few 12 and 13-year-old videos of this tech in case you care to see how this used to be done. Regardless, let's take a look. Now, depending on how comfortable you are with redstone, this either looks like magic or repulsive spaghetti. Either way, it's not that complicated. It breaks down into three main systems: the portal lighting manager, the Lectern pulse extender, and the binary counter. The portal manager has three jobs. First, light the portal on entry. Second, wait a moment and then destroy the portal. This is accomplished through a pulse extender and a falling edge monostable circuit, which is just a fancy way of saying a bit of redstone that sends a pulse when it stops receiving power. In this case, the observer can only send a pulse into this repeater when the piston retracts back down, when the pulse extender runs out of power. It then pulses these repeaters, which then turn on and off, which sends two pulses to this dispenser, cleanly destroying the portal without spilling water too much. The last task of this system is to be able to accept a signal to light the portal when its floor is selected. We'll get to that in a moment. For now, let's move on to the variable length Lectern-based pulse extender. As you will see, this type of pulse extender slowly allows the signal to diminish. It goes from 15 and counts down, which means, depending on the strength of the pulse we input, the pulse extender will die faster. For instance, if we put a signal strength of 3 into it, it dies fairly instantly. But as you just saw, a higher signal strength will last quite a while. Now, this system has the express purpose of placing this trapdoor against the wall to instantaneously send a signal all the way to the bottom of the build. This works, of course, because of the beautiful world of wallstone, where every wall below, a wall that has an additional surface to connect to, will jut out in a detectable way. Now, last and certainly not least, one of my favorite redstone machines are binary counter. This is a simplified version of what is found on every single floor of the build. For those of you who are familiar with binary, feel free to skip to the time shown here. If you're not, I'll give you a quick rundown. Our usual numbering system, the one you know well, is called decimal, like deca, meaning 10. In this context, it's called counting in a base 10. In decimal, we have places, like the ones place and the tens place and the hundreds place, as shown here. Every place represents a power of 10. In this case, we have 10 to the 0, which is 1. So in the ones place we have 5 times 1. Then we have 10 to the 1. So the second digit is 4 times 10. Then 7 times 100, and 2 times 1,000, and so on. And when you add them all up, you get the true value of the value in question. Now, this seems obvious, but it's not the only way to go. Binary, or base 2, is a counting system where the places are powers of 2 rather than powers of 10. In decimal, we count from 0 to 9, but once you hit 10, we don't have a symbol for that, so you move over to the tens place. Binary is just the same, but the limit is 2 rather than 10. It's as though we only had symbols to represent 0 and 1. So here you have 2 to the 0, which also, like 10 to the 0, equals 1. To count, you start with 1, then to add another, you have to move over to the second place already, which has a value of 2 to the 1. Then you can add another 1 in the ones place. But to add again, you need to move over again. In decimal, the places values are 1, 10, 100, and 1,000. But in binary, they're powers of 2, which is to say this is the ones place, this is the twos place, then the 4, the 8, the 16, the 32, 64, and forever on. And much like in decimal, you can simply multiply the value in the box by the value of the place it occupies and add them all up to get the true value of what you're looking for. Like over here, you'd have 5 times 1, 4 times 10, 7 times 100, all added up. You would have 128 plus 0 plus 0 plus 16 plus 0 plus 4 plus 2, which happens to be 150. Now, back to our binary counter. Every time I send a pulse, these pistons will count in binary, just due to the nature of a spitting sticky piston. A block being up is a 0, a block pulled down is a 1. And with this, we have a system that can count quickly. You may notice we only have 6 available digits. This means that our maximum value is 63, the sum of every single digit. Which is to say, this counter has 63 possible states, depending on how many pulses it gets, or rather, how long it is exposed to our observer clock. Once it hits 63, adding another 1 will simply reset the machine. With that, let's move on to the actual unit we can find in the build. This is the same binary counter we just saw, but with 3 extra features. First, it's powered directly by an observer clock, which can be enabled and disabled by this small example of slimestone. Second, after counting, using this redstone line, it can reset itself and be ready for a new count. As you can see, while this clock is pulsing, this pulse extender is not allowed to turn on. Just like in the portal manager, there's a falling edge monostable circuit that only fires when this dust has no power, which triggers the reset. This mechanism allows the machine a couple of seconds to sit still with its results. Then, it's reset for the next count. Lastly, these cauldrons, and the rest of this comparator setup in line here, check to see if this counter is in a specific state, which is to say looking for a specific number, in this case 000100, which translates to 4. If the block is in the right place, its comparator will be able to pull the signal strength from the cauldron through, pushing the power into the redstone torch in front of it, turning it off. If there is no block between the cauldron and the comparator, there is no power to be drawn, so the torch stays on. Only when every single torch is off will this power line turn off and allow this torch to turn back on, giving us a little chime. All this to say, if the machine gets 4 pulses quickly enough to not reset itself, then stops before moving on to 5 pulses, we'll get our chime, and the system will reset itself. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now in the actual build, those pulses come at observer clock speed, which is to say, much faster than I can click. Additionally, in the build, there is no chime. This line, or specifically this torch, is a thing that powers the lighting of the portal when the floor is selected. Okay, now you know about 95% of how this thing works. To get you the rest of the way there, let's check out the second floor. Here we have our lectern set up on the left, our portal manager up front, and our binary counter out back. Now to put it all together and use the machine, you enter the floor you want to go to and send your request. The pulse extender will send a signal down, which will push all the slime blocks up, and every single counter in the entire machine will get counting. And only the floor, which matches the particular cauldron arrangement of the resulting number of the timing of the signal, will receive the signal and light its portal at around the same time that the counter resets itself. Then all that's left to do is walk into any portal, which will welcome you by lighting itself immediately. Wait a moment for the portal that you walked through to disappear, and come out on your desired floor. In this case, floor 3 was waiting for this signal of 001010, which happens to translate to 10. Now, because every portal closes behind you, and any portal will activate just by approaching it, technically, you can request floor 8, drop down to floor 1, walk through down here, and the system won't really be able to tell that you did that. I don't think there's any particular use for that, but it is an option. As cool as it is right now, there's plenty to improve on. First, it's limited to 8 floors, because the pulse extenders I'm using like to translate every signal strength to about 2 pulses. Not hard to work around on its own, but there is another issue. The slimestone pillar activates gradually from the bottom up, but it deactivates instantly. This causes the values to be less than exact the higher up you go in the pillar. The numbers that I'm looking for on each floor on the binary counters are 4, 8, 14, 18, 20, 24, and then 22. Because I put the 8th station so high up that the amount of time that it takes for the pistons to push the slime blocks up cuts the observer clock short. I could rework it so that the instant deactivation actually serves as the start stage, but that has its own issues. I will dabble with the other options, like scaffolding, just redstone, dust, and glass, and bubble columns, but if any of you have any ideas as to how to do vertical redstone instantly, let me know. Another issue it has is just the fact that it uses binary counters. An ideal setup could probably just use a dropper, powered by the observer clocks, and then read how many items are moved in a much faster and much smaller machine. One that could actually distinguish 15 unique signals. But again, this project started because I was messing with binary counters, so I'm happy with how it is for now. Now lastly, if you're going to a high up floor, and you go too quickly through the nether, you have the chance to beat the counter, so you'll end up teleporting before the portal's ready for you, and create a portal somewhere you don't want. But I suppose not in this case. Though that is why I added music in the elevator. As long as you wait one loop, you're always fine. That's all I have for you today. Thanks again for watching.